Welcome back. This is the Unstuck movement. I'm your host, Rob Z. This platform, as you can see, is all about breakthrough and true testimonies from real people who have had incredible breakthroughs in their lives to prove to you that it's possible for you also, to give you that real life example. And today we have an incredible guest with us. We're going to be talking wealth building strategies, financial mindset shifts, cash flow versus savings, strategic financial planning. Freddie Rappina is with us. And Freddie, I want to jump in with a question right off the bat, talking about middle-class families. What is the number one mistake that most middle-class families make around money?
Thinking they can save their way to wealth. Yeah.
And
kind of weird, right?
Well, it is weird, but I think we've all kind of heard this and maybe don't fully understand it. So go a little bit deeper into that. Where are middle-class families making that mistake, and why is that a big mistake they can make?
The attitude that if you're going to save money and that there's going to be like this great compound interest, and if you save money for a long period of time, eventually this number is going to be really, really big. It just doesn't work, in my opinion, in practice, unless you started out with a lot of money to begin with, right? Compound interest is, in my opinion, one of the most oversold concepts to the middle class. And it makes a lot of businesses, financial institutions, insurance companies, banks, you name it, wealthy. So it's because if you're getting like a 7% rate of return on your money, and your money should double every 10 years, right? That's the math. And that's the good news, right? The bad news is, Rob, how many sets of 10 do you have left, right? For this money to double, to get to the point where it is a extremely large number, where you're going to be able to take an income stream from that number, sometimes called the nest egg, to really afford your life. And are you in a good physical state when that number does finally arrive, to be able to enjoy your money? Or do you have like this golden wheelchair plan that I call it, where people are just saving, and not enjoying their lives for a lot of years, and in hopes that they can get to this magic number where they can take an income stream? I think that's oversold. Not that it doesn't, that it can't work. I want to be very clear about that. It can work. It's not going to, but in my opinion, it's not going to make you wealthy.
Right. There's better ways, is what you're saying. It's one way. It might work for some people.
Yeah. I call it checkers. I call that the checkers form of finance, where you're saving, you're paying down debt, you're doing all, the things that the proverbial they tell you to do. And hopefully you get to that number where you can retire and pull an income stream from for the rest of your life without running out of money, right? And hopefully the market cooperates with you along the way. Chess is completely different.
Well, let's dive into playing chess here. So before we go any further, and I'm loving this already, because this is just really important information, things that I need to hear, we all need to hear. So before we move any further, just want to re-welcome everybody. This is the Unstuck movement. This platform was created to help you break those chains in your life that are holding you back personally, professionally, financially. And so I bring people on who have these true testimonies of breakthrough. We're sponsored by the Connected Leaders Academy. Check out connectedleadersacademy.com. Incredible entrepreneurs, over 470 of them from all over the world, helping and serving one another. And also, I want to help anybody who's watching or listening to this right now. If you've been dying to start your own platform, your own podcast, but you're really having a really difficult time making a decision, making the choice. Why should I do it? How do I do it easily? How do I streamline it? How do I monetize it? And how do I make it something that creates lasting impact in people's lives and also builds incredible professional and personal connections for me in my life? I'd love to help you with that. You can join our Pro Podcaster Academy at robzwentz.com. Freddie Rappina with us today is a wealth advisor, chartered financial consultant, and accredited investment fiduciary who founded Opta Financial, formerly in law enforcement. He now helps clients strategically build wealth through financial analysis, investment planning, and leveraging assets. So if saving money is playing checkers, what is playing chess when it comes to money?
Saving money is important, and even in the chess form, it's just not stopping there, and it's not believing that it by itself is going to develop the wealth. It is saving money and then using leverage, using other people's money, taking out loans with the money that you saved as kind of like the backing, the reserves, and then using the loans to purchase cash flowing assets such as real estate, such as businesses, things that are going to create more multiple streams of income for you and have you be able to enjoy that income now, not 30 years from now. So when you start playing chess, you are building wealth and not just saving money in some form or fashion, including tax advantage plans. So if you're playing checkers, you want to be completely out of debt, have even your house paid off and everything else. If you're playing chess, you actually want to be in as much debt as possible without over leveraging, meaning if there's a problem, you can't fix it with your reserves. That's when you're over leveraged. So it's really that attitude towards debt that really is going to separate the checkers players and the chess players. And there's nothing wrong with being a checkers player. You just have to have the right expectation of what that can do. You shouldn't be screaming at the moon, why are the rich keep getting richer and everybody else not? Well, you're not playing the same game. They're playing chess.
So let's just think hypothetical, right? There's a family, husband, wife, couple of kids, and they have about $10,000 in savings. They're saving it. They feel like that's good for them, but they know there's more. What would you recommend they do with that $10,000 in savings? How much would you take out to reinvest? What would you leave in there? And I know it's just a hypothetical question, but trying to get a practical idea of what this looks like.
So if you have a small amount of savings, you want to save, right? Like I don't want to discount saving. You want to build, maybe you do want to put money into like 401ks and IRAs and everything else, right? It's the stopping there, right? And some people need to play checkers first, right? Playing a good game of checkers first is fine, especially when you have the mindset of, hey, I'm going to switch over to the chess once I get myself a good foothold, right? The problem right now is there's so many bad checkers players out there that are getting run over by capitalism, and they believe that checkers is chess, that's not the case. Like you might need to get good at checkers first before you switch over to chess. But $10,000, if that's all you have, like that, I would say the best investment you can make is getting some kind of skill set where you can make more revenue, where your working life can develop more income, so you're able to save more and have that good foothold if you're going to switch over to chess or just keep going with checkers.
What's that dollar amount, that money amount you recommend where that starts to change from checkers to chess?
I don't know if there's a specific dollar amount. It's definitely the mindset, but it's definitely when you can comfortably take on the leverage, take on the debt, right? To purchase the asset that's going to produce the income for you, right? Whatever that asset, like it's typically going to be real estate. So we'll just use real estate for right now. Once you have enough saved, right? And you're able to go to a lender and say, hey, lender, look at this statement. Look how much money I have. And I want to buy a piece of real estate, but I don't want to use my money. This is all money I worked for. I want to use your money. I'll take a little bit out for a down payment, but I want you to go in that back vault and pull out some money for me. And we're going to go buy this real estate, and I'm going to pay you back with somebody else's money. That's when you're there.
So I'm curious your journey, right? So you were
Mhm,
a former police officer. You retired 5 years ago,
mhm.
which thank you for doing that as a service to the United States and helping people. I think it's an incredible thing to do and a very bold and brave thing to do and a difficult thing to do. Probably one of the most difficult jobs there is. So how does somebody who's had a career in law enforcement end up being a fiduciary and now have the life that you have? Because that's not a very common road that most people travel. Uh, and also, along with talking about this story, what was the money issue in your life, the issues that you struggled with that helped you to get to where you are? Because I know in so many situations, it's our mess that becomes the message that we help other people with once we get through the mess. So, what's that story for you?
Well, I grew up in a working class family. My parents were very good checkers players. It and but around my second year on in law enforcement as a rookie police officer, I started getting really tired of the working like a dog. Working all the overtime, trying to make ends meet. It felt like it was never enough, no matter how many hours I worked. Just like anybody else working, a 9 to 5, job. And I started thinking like, okay, what else is there? What else, you know, what else can I do? And then I started getting around chess players, and that was big, right? So once I started meeting people that thought differently and had different attitudes, even like things towards taxes, right? And I'm getting my butt whooped, paying a lot of taxes, and out of my police check, and these guys are like, "You don't pay taxes? That's no." And I'm like, "Wait, no. What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Well, no, there's legal ways to just not pay taxes. You just have to do what the government wants you to do." And I'm like, "All right, how do I find out what the government wants me to do?" He goes, "You read the tax code." So,
Which is
so
like, how many pages is that tax code? It's very long.
yes, but it's also there are once you start learning a lot about taxes, um, there's certain the categories are kind of small
Mm,
that you need to know a lot about to really lower your taxable income legally, and once you have the mindset right of the government wants you to do it, it's not the government wants you to pay taxes. The government wants you to not pay a lot of taxes.
mm,
But to do that, they want you to do they want you to do with your money what they want you to do with it. This way, it benefits them and you, and that's why there are tax breaks, um, because it's mutually beneficial for the citizen and the government. So yeah, once you start thinking of it like that, and not like the big bad IRS is always stealing the money from me, um, the you start to there starts to be more avenues for you. You start to notice more, and your attitude changes.
So what is you want to crack the code? How do they want you to play the game?
Well,
Like where it works and it wins for them and it wins for you. Because that's the
yeah,
goal in everything that we do in life, right? I mean, if you're playing strategically, you want everybody to win. Win-win is the best way to go.
yeah. So you just got to start thinking about why is there a tax break for this thing, right? So why is all taxable income, all income is taxable unless otherwise, right? Unless there's another rule, right? From whatever source derived is from the tax code. So, um, yeah, why does the government want you to invest in real estate? Well, you are creating natural competition in for rent in the real estate market, right? So, me and everybody else that owns rental real estate, we create a natural rent control in the market, and so the government doesn't have to do that, right? Doesn't have to have as much government housing and all that other type of stuff, and
Mm.
use the tax money for. So the government gives a lot of tax breaks for real estate investments. Gives you get a lot of tax breaks for owning businesses. Why? Well, what do you create when you own a business? A lot of times, you create jobs. What kind of jobs? W-2 income jobs. And who gets hammered the most? W-2 income earners. So by the government giving the business owner the tax break, the business owner creates more W-2s, which the government taxes very heavily. So it's, again, a mutual beneficial relationship there. And simple things like, why does the government want you to have kids? Why do you get a tax break for having kids, right? It's not because they feel bad for you. It's because, well, you're creating future taxpayers. You're increasing the tax base for the government. So again, once you start thinking about it very differently, like oil and gas, another investment that has a lot of tax breaks. Why does the government want you to do that? Well, you're contributing to, energy, right? And that's what makes the world go around. So it's really about doing what they want you to do. And it's a free country, though. It's free will. You can not do those things, and that's fine. Just don't expect to have a really great day on April 15th of the next year, right?
Right.
So
really good insight, man, and really a great perspective on how to look at that, because I mean, I'm sure it's no surprise to you and no surprise to me. I mean, most people would say it's a conspiracy. It's geared towards, making the wealthier more wealthy, and all
the
these
wealthy are
different,
just doing it.
they're just right. That's and it's because I mean, it does make perfect sense. It's the win-win idea. You're making the government's job easier by creating these things that, number one, you're creating more people, so they would give a tax break because those people are going to work eventually. They don't have to house people. You're creating the housing and the renting situation, which takes pressure off of them. So when you look at it like that, it's like, oh yeah, they just honestly, and it's really fascinating whenever people were complaining so much about the government and how they're screwing people. It's like, but they want you to become an entrepreneur, and they want you to build business, and they'll incentivize you to build business.
Yes. Well, that's what the tax code is. It's a big book of, of things that are going to incentivize people to perform behaviors that they want you to do. So, I mean, and once you look at it like that, you look at it like a big coupon book. You look at it as like, a big rule book on how to become successful in the United States, is really learning a tax code. People ask me all the time, like, because of course I love investments, right? I love the market. I love, all that stuff. But when people ask me, like, what book should I read on investments? Like, have you read a good tax book yet? Because that's where you want to start.
And everybody's like, dear Lord, man, a tax book? That sounds brutal.
Yeah. Well, there are some good ones out there.
What's a good tax book?
Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright. I would say that one's good. And what I mean by good, I don't mean just the information. I mean, it's written in a way that is not completely snooze.
Okay.
That's so you can get, so the common person that doesn't love, finance as much as I do could get their way through that book pretty easily.
Amazing. Yeah, I see the foreword's by Robert Kiyosaki, so it's endorsed by somebody else who really knows a lot.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, that's definitely in his clan. Tom Wheelwright's in his group, and just a real good book, good perspective, yeah. But it really just understanding how the game works, and you just got to look. Like, I think one of the advantages I had was having an evidence-based mindset my whole adult life, right? I was a police officer in my early 20s. So I've always been thinking that way. And I don't just say all right, what are they doing? I don't care about what you're saying. I want to see how your feet move, right? What are you doing? And when you look at the financial system in the United States, there is this do as I say, not as I do element to it. It's not coming from a place of conspiracy or anything like that. It's just is, right? So these large companies, these insurance companies, or these banks, they're kind of force feeding checkers down the common American's throat, but they're turning around and playing chess, right? It's not what it's just not what they're doing. It's not what they're selling or their services or their products are bad. That's not fair. It's what they are doing right? So we can look at something very simple. My big example right now are life insurance companies. Okay, so let's take the 3 largest life insurance companies on the planet, and these are great companies, and this is no insult against them, but that would be Northwestern Mutual, New York Life, and Mass Mutual. They're the 3 largest life insurance companies, and they're mutual companies, and so that means they give money back to the policyholder in a form of a dividend in the policies, right? So, and they don't have to, but they have, these companies are good and they've been around for, over 100 years. So what would be bad for a life insurance company? COVID would be really bad for a life insurance company. A global pandemic, life-threatening pandemic should be really bad for a life insurance company, right? What they insure is life. Life is dying. CNN's got a scoreboard on every night on how many people have died from COVID, and they had great years in 2020, 21, and 22. Like, how is that possible, right? Like,
how is that possible?
Well, they're playing chess. It's not that we're screwing anybody over, not paying out the claims or anything, but you've stayed in a hotel owned by one of those life insurance companies. You've shopped at a shopping mall that's ultimately owned by one of those life insurance companies. You've bought some. They are invested so diversely over multiple markets that even a global pandemic can't really derail anything. So if now we're talking about buku money, we're talking about huge money here, right? So you got to think of this on like a scale, right? So if that's the major leagues, and you're playing high school ball, well, you want to be a good high school ball player, right? So, but you're playing the same game. It's not 2 totally different games. It's just the scale is different. So by a family being diversified over multiple markets, multiple streams of income, multiple different asset classes, it's the same thing, right? And that will help them build their wealth over time as well. Even in these large investment companies, I'm going to use a term colloquially, even though it's not accurate, a mutual fund company. What do they own? They own a ton of real estate as well, right? Some of these mutual fund companies that are own a great amount of the market or servicing the great amount of the market are also one of the biggest owners of single family residences in the United States, right? So, and if they're taking people's money, who do they get it from? They're getting it from me, right? I'm investing my client's money and then into their mutual funds or their ETFs or whatever financial product, and then turning around and beating me out on a real estate deal, a few days later, and that's, but they're telling you
it's fair play.
Yeah, but they're telling you don't invest in real estate; it's too risky, right?
Right.
Or they're telling their advisors at their, local shop, don't to talk your clients out of real estate, talk them into the products that they are selling, right? But they're turning around and buying the real estate. So there is an element of that. Well, that doesn't pass the smell test when you look, when you really start looking at it. So yeah, I mean, again, the evidence-based mindset. But if you're standing online in a slaughterhouse and you're just like, this is what most people do, well, don't expect, to have something different than what most people are getting. Right. So
you painted a really good picture, man. That's really good with life insurance. How did they make their way through and thrive through the pandemic? And it happened because they're diversified. They're using that cash flow to diversify and buy assets. Makes perfect sense. I mean, it's logical. And I love the way you're bringing the evidence-based side to it and logic to it, because if you want to stick your head in the sand and yell about it, that's fine. you can, but it's not doing you any good. So that's really good advice. I appreciate that. Real quick, Freddie, we're going to jump in for 1 minute. Shout out the sponsor of the podcast. When we come back, though, I want to talk about being a fiduciary. Someone is going to an advisor. What are some things besides being a fiduciary that someone should ask an advisor when they meet them to know that they're with the right person and that person's going to keep them heading in the right direction? We'll talk about that in 1 minute. Are you struggling to make consistent, valuable content for yourself? Do you want to have an efficient and effective way to create content that attracts the people that you want to connect with in life, the people you want to build relationships with in business? Do you want to be the go-to authority at what you do, at what you're great at? Would it be helpful for you if you had a platform that connects you to incredible people in your industry? The kind of platform that gets you leads and lands you clients without you having to beat down anybody's door or blow up anybody's inbox. Whether you're already creating content or you're desiring to start and it's something that's been kind of burning inside of you for a while, I urge you and encourage you to check out the Pro Podcaster Academy. Get started right now. Join the waitlist at robzwentz.com.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world globally. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, join the Connected Leaders Academy today. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
Man, Freddie, loving this conversation. Really, really important. And you're explaining it in a very clear way that's easy to understand. By the way, I just ordered Tax-Free Wealth on Amazon, so that's coming to my house here in a couple of days. And I advise anybody, when you hear good information from somebody who knows what they're talking about, you should take action on that information. So let's take some more action on some information that you're going to give us. Talking about you're going to visit an advisor, see if they're the right person for you. You're going to look for them to be a fiduciary. That's a big part of it. Why should they be a fiduciary, first of all? What's the benefit when you find an advisor who is a fiduciary?
A fiduciary has to act in the client's best interest at all times. When you're working with somebody who's not a fiduciary, they can work in the best interest of whatever company they're representing. Could be, whatever. But a fiduciary has the legal obligation to act solely in the best interest of the client. So it doesn't mean there's going to be no conflicts of interests, but those conflicts of interest would need to be disclosed and explained. And but the fiduciary has a higher standard. I wish everybody that touched money was a fiduciary, but unfortunately, that's not the case.
Yeah, that would be nice, but at least there's a title that you can look for that makes sure that you're okay. Now I'm sure there are fiduciaries who have bucked that rule and have gone and skirted that, but for the most part, you look for that. So, what other things should you look for or ask when you're meeting with an advisor?
Well, my opinion, you want to work with somebody who's on the same mission, right? In their own lives, right? Are they a checkers player or a chess player themselves, right? If you're a checkers player, then it'd probably be a good idea to work with a good checkers advisor, right? Someone who thinks like that and has a lot of expertise in how to play a really great checkers game. If you're a chess player, you want to stay the heck away from checker financial advisors. They are not going to be good for you, in my opinion. You want to work with a chess financial advisor, somebody who understands understands the elements of a good chess game, and is not afraid or worried about money going out the door, not being under their management, so they can charge you fees and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, understanding that, and just I kind of liken it to personal trainers, right? So if you went to the gym and you walk up to the front desk and you say, "Hey, I want to work with a personal trainer," and I said, "Yeah, we'll get somebody for you," and some slob walked up to you and is like with, big sandwich hanging out of his mouth or whatever, and said, "Hey, I'm going to be your personal trainer," you're like, "No, you're not," right? But that personal trainer also doesn't have to be Mr. Olympia to be a good personal trainer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they do have to look like they practice what they preach, right? And I kind of think the same thing with financial advisors. You probably shouldn't be going to a broke financial advisor. I don't care,
Well, so the
what they
difference
have
is
after
that
their name or whatever.
but a personal trainer, I can physically see this
True.
is not what I want. How do you see that the advisor you're going to for your money is not what you want? How do you figure that out?
Well, you can ask some like basic questions, right? It's if you're a chess player, you should ask, do you own real estate? And if that advisor only says like, well, just my house, like, well, that's a checkers financial advisor, right?
Mhm.
So again, and doesn't mean that's bad, right? It's just, in my opinion, not going to be good for you, right? If you're a chess player, you want to find a chess financial advisor who has multiple doors and is doing, a lot of the strategies that they can advise you on, and even has made some mistakes. That's actually a good thing. If they've been doing it a long time and they've messed some stuff up, because now you can avoid that a little bit by learning from their mistakes. But if there are a checkers financial advisor, they should be a good checkers player. I don't, again, it doesn't have to be to like a Mr. Olympia level. They don't have to be super duper wealthy, but they should look like they've been to the gym before.
Yeah, practice what you preach.
Yeah.
Right. That's good advice too, because what to look for when you're going to a financial advisor, what to listen for, and how to know what questions are the right questions to ask. So you would say making sure they're a fiduciary, number one.
That's number one. Checkers or chess.
But then find out, and simple question, do you own any real estate yourself? Something like that would be a really good telltale sign. You'll get an idea of where they are. Say they don't own any real estate, but they are a fiduciary. You're just starting off with your savings. You're just learning checkers. Would you recommend getting a checkers?
A checkers advisor would be fine. Yeah,
okay.
That'd be fine.
And then scale up as you scale up.
Right. Or if you're just hell bent on being a good checkers player, and that's okay too, right? So it's totally fine to be good checkers players. My parents are good checkers players, but you just got to have the right expectation on what that can lead to. No one has ever saved their way to wealth, right? So you just can't save money forever and think that's going to, make you extremely wealthy, right? My joke for that is like if I went down to the boat show here in Tampa Bay and I walked up to somebody with a $25 million boat and asked them, "How'd you afford this? This is awesome." They're not going to say I fully funded my IRA or I saved every dime I made or something like that. Like the saving will not be the answer. It will be what they did after they have saved a good bit of money.
What do they do with it? Yeah. So from your journey, right, what led you, because being in law enforcement, you want to learn how to save money and you want to learn how to reinvest your money and use cash flow to your advantage. That's great, but how do you decide, well, I'm going to become a fiduciary now, I'm going to become a professional at this and teach other people and help other people do it? Because most people wouldn't go to that length. What made you do that?
I would say around my 11th, 12th year, I wanted to change. I wanted to get out of law enforcement, but I also knew that I wanted to get to the 20 years to, secure the pension and all that stuff. But I also, what else do I like talking about? Well, I like talking about this, right? So, and I wanted to provide value. That was a big thing for me, right? How do I develop something that can provide value that if I became wealthy, people wouldn't be jealous or mad at, right? So if you provide value to the world and you become, successful, people are generally okay with that. It's when you found a way to take and become wealthy that way, that's when people, in my opinion, are more resentful to you. And a quick little story on how on just an aha moment. It was like 2013. My wife and we went to Miami on vacation. It was cold in Miami that week, and so we decided to take this double-decker tour bus of Star Island, which is where a lot of the celebrities live in Miami. And we were the youngest people on the bus by like 35, 40 years. We the tour guide's talking about, this is Will Smith's house, this is Shaquille O'Neal's house, this is Elizabeth Taylor's house. And then we get around the backside of the island, and there's this house that's just like, if the frame was the island, the house would take up the whole frame. It was just huge, dwarfs all the other houses.
Wow.
And everybody's like, wow, whose house is this? And the tour guide said, well, if I said his name, you probably wouldn't recognize the name. But if you notice the palm trees on this property are the tallest and the stiffest on the island, this is the person who invented Viagra. and the bus bursts out in a lot of chuckles. But then this guy, about 65 years old, stands up in the back of the bus and he screams as loud as he can, "He deserves every bit of this house." And the whole bus filled with these older people erupts with laughter and cheering. Little old ladies clapping. It was so awkward. But that's when it hit me. Like, they didn't care that Philip Frost had this massive house on Star Island in Miami and became very successful, obviously, by inventing Viagra, because it brought value to their lives, right?
Yeah.
So, and so I'm like, okay, well, that's what you got to do. You just got to provide value in whatever you're doing, and the money just kind of falls out of the sky.
Oh man, that's a great way of looking at that. How are you going to add massive value to people's lives? And if you can add massive value, and you're crafty and strategic about it, you're going to build wealth from that. And that's a great example, right? That's a really great example, because if you bring people joy, satisfaction, add value, then you deserve the success, the fruit that comes from that. So I love that. That's a really good example.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have been on that tour bus just to like hear those old people. That would have been funny. Oh
Yeah,
man. And also kind of gross. You're kind of like also picturing like,
yeah,
oh man,
it's awkward. But it was
I don't
funny.
need these visuals, but this is also hilarious.
Yeah.
So as we come towards the end of this episode, man, this has been a really great conversation. Awesome stuff. I want to encourage people to connect with you. And there's a couple different ways they can do that. Obviously, your website, if you're watching right now, you can see that at the bottom of the screen, optafinancial.com. It's also in the show notes, OPTA, optafinancial.com. But also, if you want to schedule a complimentary call, you welcome complimentary consultations, and they can do that at your Calendly, calendly.com/Freddie Rappina. What can they expect from that consultation call?
Just a casual conversation and make sure that, if they want to work with us, that they're a good fit for us and we're a good fit for them. We do like working with chess players. So a lot of people that come are kind of just tired of their checkers financial advisor, talking about the same checkers stuff that and they want to branch out away from that. So that's, that could be a real good fit, and people with the right mindset is important. So yeah, people that are looking for something a little bit different, right? Not the same old from the financial world. And if people want to, are not completely sold on me yet, and they want to read the book Playing the Wealth Game, and understand a little bit more on how I think and my philosophies and some deeper into some strategies, they can pick that up on Amazon as well.
I love that. Playing the Wealth Game. Buy that on Amazon. And, as we're talking about this, I should have asked this earlier, but what's the best kind of real estate to invest in when you get into chess? What do you recommend?
So it's got a cash flow. I would say that's a premise to the real estate game. It's got a cash flow. You have to be comfortable. You might be comfortable being uncomfortable, but you got to be like it. You shouldn't be over leveraged. boring is better than, the sexy stuff. Boring.
Is there certain
boring
kind of like units though that you gear yourself towards? Like is family units, multi-family housing? What do you
Multifamily is where the bigger money is. It may not be where you want to start. You might want to start with something small and kind of build your way there with that as a goal, right? So, residential is a good place to start, in my opinion. Not getting into crazy investments or short-term rentals or anything like that. Is start with the basics, in my opinion, first, because you might be conservative for a chess player at first, but that's much more aggressive than every other checker player out there. So once you start, though, it can become very addicting. I guess it is a good. I don't know if that's a correct word, but you start seeing the success, and you think you can step on the gas. It's like you need somebody in your corner that's looking out for you to say, like, whoa, pump the brakes. Yeah, I know you took the red pill and you realize that the world is much different than you saw it a little while ago, but there needs to be strategies and steps.
Great advice, man. Thank you for that. And I want to remind everybody, if you want to be the authority in your space, you want to launch your own platform, join the Pro Podcaster Academy at robzwentz.com. Freddie, love this conversation. Super important and really practical. So I appreciate that. Any advice, anything you want to leave the audience with before we sign off?
Let's have the evidence-based mindset. If you don't want to work with us, work with somebody who's going to help you. And don't think you should do it all yourself, because you want to build a team of different professionals helping you.
Awesome. Another true testimony of breakthrough. Thank you for being here, sir. Until next time, this has been the Unstuck Movement.